here at the Morrison Hotel Gallery, live streaming Behind the Lens series. Before I get too involved, I want to thank everybody at the Morrison Hotel Gallery, because I know I'll forget. This group of people are so hardworking, and they've done such an amazing job by building this gallery up. And they're working during this time with less resources to continue our journey here, because they really believe that art is therapy, and they really want to stand by all the photographers we represent and make this thing happen. So, with that said, I want to shout out a few people. In California, there's Casey and Jamie, there's Susie, there's Susan. In New York, there's Marcel, Daniel, Matthew. There's the press house, Don and Kiva, who work so hard. In Maui, you've got Ario, Sharon, Barbara, Linda, Debbie, Robert, and of course, Mick Fleetwood. Everyone really works so hard to support our photographers. We represent 125 of the best photographers in the history of contemporary photography. I've got to shout out my partners, Peter Blashley, Rich Horowitz, my muse, my friend, my mentor, the ever-effervescent Henry Diltz. We represent an amazing group of people, and I'm really honored to be considered one of their peers. And so, support them at this time. Go to the Morrison Hotel Gallery website, www.morrisonhotelgallery.com, and support these guys. Look through it. I think everyone should go home later and put on some vinyl and sit on the couch and light a joint and put on the Morrison Hotel Gallery website and get lost in the amazing photography that's there. Fear is very prevalent today, and we're all in a place where we don't know what's next. With that said, there is something going on. There's some change in the air. I can feel it. And we're all seeing that the air seems cleaner, and the streets are cleaner, and there's less crime. It seems that animals, both in captivity and in nature, are happier. I see families coming together and learning as much as they can about each other. There's growth that's going to come out of this, and that growth is really an important thing. And I see it as a metaphor. And I see the metaphor being love. And I think that, at least I want to embrace it as such. And I think that we can all learn from this and all learn to take care of ourselves in a much more healthy way, take care of each other, support each other. And I think that's really a message that I want to say today. So, in using that metaphor of love, I want to show you where I do what I love, which is my archive. So come with me. This is the garden. This is my secret garden. This is where everything grows. And, here, give me the camera. And these are my gardeners. That's Hila over there, and that's Omen. And we're socially distanced today, and we're wearing masks. By the way, the masks are made by Hila. Go to hilasmasks.com. No, I'm just kidding. But we're here and we're taking care of each other. And these two people who work so hard for me and do amazing work, they're extremely talented. And they've given up half their Sunday to come here and be with me and to do this broadcast. So thanks, guys. And I'm just going to sit and tell you about my life and my career and what goes on here. This is my archive. This represents 40 years of my work. Every single file cabinet is filled with every original, transparency negative, Polaroid negative, data based on the shoots. Every drawer is filled with prints that we've made. We do everything here. These two people, we go through this analog archive and pull out images every single day. We scan, we retouch, we print, we do everything here. We have a large server that not only represents the digital assets that we create from the analog archive, but also from all of the digital capturing that I've been doing for the last 15 years or so. We do all sorts of prints here. We can go large. We do things like this. That's Nicolas Cage from some hotel in downtown that was really scuzzy many years ago. Two other prints in 30 by 40s or 20 by 24s is Anthony Hopkins from, I think that's 1991. That's a very young Tom Hanks for the movie Philadelphia, where he lost so much weight for that movie. Outcast, from one of my multiple shoots with them, another one of Outcast. Sophia Loren. What, is someone asking me something? Michael Bolton, is he on? Michael Bolton came on and all he wants to know about is his book. So this is a book that we're working on for Michael Bolton. It's not out yet. But Michael is one of my oldest friends. Michael and I have been photographing together for, I don't know, but I've done 41 shoots over the years with Michael Bolton, and he is not only a very close friend, but probably one of the funniest people I know. And so we're putting a book together that represents his career. And we have a funny joke between us because we both had really long, funny hair at the time. And it's sort of like, who's got the weirdest hair back then?
Do you want to see your car photos too?
Yeah, okay, well, we'll get there. So, I'll show you a lot of different things. I forgot where I was, but over the years, we're constantly making prints, constantly making different books and portfolios. So most of you know me for the Hollywood work that I do. You've probably seen the books that I have out, the coffee table books, but we also do really special little projects. This is a little sort of pilot's log that I did as a gift for Harrison Ford, which was based on trips that we had done across country in one of his airplanes. This is another sort of portfolio box set, only this one was made out of metal. This one here is my pinup book that we've done in different textures and different materials. This is a faux ostrich level portfolio of large images. So there's always something new going on here. There's always something different that we try and do. Anyway, there's a lot here, and it's overwhelming. We come in here every day, and to this day, I'm overwhelmed. Let me start from the beginning. Thank you, Michael, for reaching out. Let me start from the beginning. I think I got interested in photography really as a child when I looked at those family snapshots, that shoebox full of family snapshots that are now on our cameras, and we collect thousands of them, and we probably never see them again, or we maybe delete them, or when our phone breaks or whatever, we lose our family history. But at the time, when I grew up, there was that shoebox full of pictures, and I remember distinctly the compositions. They weren't just people just standing there stiffly. It was my family against a car. I'm very much into cars, and so it was my Aunt Lucy next to her '57 Chevy. It was It was my grandmother holding a baby. It was someone leaning against the house, but there was something about them with those decal edges and all those black and whites of different sizes and different formats, and it stuck in my mind, and it became sort of this snapshot aesthetic that that really stuck in my head. And through high school, I did a little bit of photography, but then I went to college, and I went to the Rhode Island School of Design, and I studied photography there. And that was a really amazing experience for me. It really taught me about dedication and about being focused on something that's really, really important. It made me realize that that art and the art that I decided to practice was really life for me. It was about life. So from there, I moved to New York City and opened up a studio with 3 college friends, assisting a little bit, but I was antsy and I had things to do, and I was starting to hustle and going around and trying to build my name as a photographer and try and make a name for myself and develop my style, figure out what it was that interested me, and I did anything. I did anything that it took. I shot all sorts of bands, and I shot real estate. I even did dog portraits. So, which were successful actually, and it was fun. But I built my career, and I started to travel a little bit as I met some artists that I worked with from South America, some well-known artists and international artists, and started to travel a bit, and started to shoot work that I thought had some sort of commercial value, but I was trying to find myself. And then all of a sudden, because I really grew up with music, it was so important, I started to shoot some music. And started to shoot these bands that I knew in town in New York, and started to put together a little portfolio. And then I got an opportunity. And that opportunity, and the first one that really makes sense for me, was I got hired to shoot Julian Lennon. And he had just become his own man with his first album, The Lot, which was such a big deal. And Julian and I connected, and I shot some great pictures of him. And here we are 34 years later, and we're still really good friends. And I've done a lot of pictures of him over the years. And he's a photographer in his own right and an amazing artist. And that was a really important relationship for me. And then that grew, that kind of clicked for me, and I realized that was something that really worked for me. And so I started to go to magazines, and I started to go to record companies and trying to get that work. And one thing led to another, and I showed some work at one point, a body of work, to Rolling Stone, and they hired me right away. And those pictures from Rolling Stone really took off. And for me, it took off for me, and just made me realize that is really what I wanted to do. And that led to a cover contract with Rolling Stone and shooting lots of different images for them. And my career grew and grew in the music world. And then at some point I started to see what was going on in the covers of the magazine by amazing photographers like Annie Leibovitz and other people who so influenced me. Of course, Richard Avedon and Irving Penn, like most of the photographers who've been talking on this series, they influenced a lot of us contemporary photographers, as well as many others, who of course escape me now. But I started seeing Hollywood on those magazine covers as well. And that really intrigued me because I've always had such a strong interest in cinema, and there was something about the lighting and just the whole mystique around Hollywood, especially being a kid from Jersey. Boy, I got to tell you that too. If there's like everybody in this whole company is like from Jersey. Every photographer that's come on and done the series has had some connection to New Jersey. Danny Clinch, shout out. Danny used to be my assistant actually early on. Just telling everybody. So thanks, Danny, for that great experience that we shared together and grew. And it's amazing for me to watch you and where you've gone with your career. And I'm really, really proud to have watched it and to have started together. There was another guy, actually, a guy named Russell Ward, who's passed on, and Russell was my early assistant, and Russell and I built my career together. And Russell was the first person who had enough experience to allow me to focus on doing what I do best, which was to connect with my talent and to have a vision for what I wanted to do, and to collaborate with people who could allow me to facilitate that vision. And Russell was one of those people. And the other, of course, is Gus, and Gus Philippus. And Gus, another photographer in his own right now. But Gus and I worked together for so many years, and we always used to say I've shared more meals and plane flights and personal discussions with Gus than I've shared with anybody in my life because of our experiences together. So through that magazine work in Rolling Stone and doing all that music, it went from there to Hollywood, and so my career shifted, and it kind of went from, well, it grew, actually. I mean, it grew in a big way. And it went from a lot of magazine work to a lot of advertising work to shooting editorial magazine covers for Hollywood that then went into the advertising work in Hollywood, which was movie advertising, movie posters, and the advertising for television, which really changed things. But at the same time, I was still doing my own work all the time, the things that interest me. Cars, motorcycles, landscapes, nudes, things that I would do separately from my commercial work, but I always incorporated it into my commercial work. I mean, there's an example here. So this is a portfolio that I made of some of my card work. And I can show you some of these pictures on the computer in a minute, but this is a handmade portfolio that I did. I had these lettering made in Tijuana, just like a car's emblem. And then on the inside of the portfolio, it's all a tuck and roll leather interior, just like a hot rod or like a car. And so, again, always making these special portfolios, always focusing on my personal work as well as my commercial work. But what I realized grew for me and what worked for me was there's something about a Jersey kid. I don't know what it is, but it just allowed me to be able to talk to people a certain way, to distract them, to make it about something that wasn't contrived. Instead, it was about something that was a connection between humans, a connection between me and the people that I worked with. And I didn't ask them or talk to them about their next movie or what they were doing. We talked about things that were just human, about our families, about what they're doing in their lives, and things that that made it easier for us to work together. Do you want to set us up here, and I'll show some pictures on the computer? We have questions I should answer?
Julian is watching, he said hi.
Julian, thanks for checking us out. I appreciate it. I know it's late there where you are in Europe. There's someone asked a question about Jim Marshall, who I did one of my books with, Match Prince. Quickly, I'll just go through my books. Just really simple. My first book was called Portraits, and over the years, and I'm about to show you it, but over the years I developed this relationship with Harrison Ford, and Harrison ended up doing the foreword for this book, which was really, really important for me. My second book was a book that I did on a friend of mine named Indian Larry, who I photographed for many, many years, and who passed away. And so I had the pictures, I had the love, I had the ability to do a coffee table book, and I did that book on him. My third book was a book on pinups that were my homage to the Varga illustrations of the 40s and 50s. And only did it photographically. And then this fourth book was a book that I did with my friend Jim Marshall. And for 25 years, Jim was the preeminent rock photographer of all time, music photographer of all time. And Jim and I were friends for so long, and we'd constantly compare images. It was like, oh, I shot him, but I shot him 25, 30 years after Jim had shot him. And so we started to put the pictures together and realized not only all of these similarities in composition, but also in subject. And so we did a book called Match Prince, and that was really an important book. Let me show you some pictures so we can talk a little bit, and maybe some people have questions. This picture of Robert Mitchum that I took in 1988 was a really important picture for me, because at the time, even though it's just sort of a headshot of someone, at the time I recognized that I could make a picture rather than just take a picture. That even as simple as even as something as simple as this composition, there was something about it that just clicked for me, and it was a very big changing point in my life. We'll go through. This was Guns N' Roses, also shot in 1988. This year, I photographed this band. No one really kind of knew about them except in Hollywood and on the Sunset Strip playing nightclubs, but that same year, so I did this, and this was a small picture in the random notes section of Rolling Stone, I believe. And then that same year, in 1988, they broke out big with their album Appetite for Destruction, and I was hired back to shoot their album cover. Their Rolling Stone cover. And so in 1 year, we did this small picture of them, and then did the Rolling Stone cover. The Rolling Stone cover was quite an experience. It was a 24-hour shoot. It just went on and on. Some amazing pictures came out of that. I've got a lot to go through, and I know you want to see some, so let me move forward. Queen Latifah, something that's really important, and thank you, Michael, for reaching, and Julian for reaching out, but something that's really, really important in my career is relationships. Because of those relationships, I photograph people over and over again. Many times over the course of their life, over the course of their career, you'll see it here. This is completely different, maybe 5-6 years apart, Queen Latifah. One done in this ballroom in Florida, and the other one done in New York. Liza Minnelli, I've worked with the legends. It's amazing to me that this kid from Jersey gets to shoot Audrey Hepburn, Robert Mitchum, Liza Minnelli, Harrison Ford, on and on and on. Again, worked with Liza many times. Simple image in the studio. This image is where I start to bring my friends together. I ride motorcycles. It's a really big, important part of my life. That's Indian Larry on the left. That's a friend called English Don on the right. They both passed away now, but we did this photo shoot with Liza, and Liza came out of the dressing room after I asked her if she would take this picture with my friends, and she said, "Are you ready?" And I said, "Yes," and she quickly lifted up her blouse and showed me her little tattoo. The first frame of a long day of shooting, but that first frame said it all. Will Smith, photographed him many times for the movie Bad Boys. It was a very important movie poster for me. James Franco, in just a cheap hotel room. I tend to like locations. I tend to light in many different ways. I like flashlights, I like car lights, I like a strobe, I like a light bulb, whatever it takes, just reflecting light. This was just throwing a light through a window because there wasn't enough light in the room to get enough direction. Arnold Schwarzenegger, this picture I see everywhere, by the way. Just a really powerful photograph of a really powerful man. Harrison Ford. So this relationship was over 30-something years. I've known Harrison and I've worked with him. This was the first day I met him. We went to his place in Wyoming and got there a day before and called him up and said to Harrison, I'm here, and the light is great, let's do some pictures. And he was like, okay, come on over. Came over, did this picture, shot this picture of his dog with him, and we had a great time. And at the end of the day, I said, okay, so what time are we starting to shoot tomorrow? Because that was the shoot date. It was planned. And he was like, no, we just did it. And I was like, no. That was just extra. We still have tomorrow's photo shoot. And so we hit it off, and I came back and did more the next day. But over 30 years, that was the shoot. This photograph before was the first day. This is present day, 30-something years later. So it's an amazing array of a relationship with someone on a horse in New York City with Harrison out in the desert with me. Such a creative collaboration over 30 years. Again, bringing in my friends. There's Indian Larry, bringing in my love, motorcycles. Even though it's a celebrity shoot, it's still bringing in all of the things that matter to me and making it important. Harrison, what a collaborator. What an opportunity for me to not only photograph someone so special and such a big part of Hollywood history, but someone who also gets the whole premise and is so collaborative and wants to create something that's cinematic and that has some historical value. This was for the movie 6 Days, 7 Nights, and this was Anne Heche and Harrison in Hawaii. Harrison out in the desert. We have a lot of fun. We have to have a lot of fun. I mean, this isn't serious stuff. This is photography. It's beautiful. It's about making something special. This was from a movie called Cowboys and Aliens, and I had 16 people, actors, to work with on the course of the day. But in this particular day, I had one moment with Harrison on a horse, and I had to light it because the sun was high, so I had to get light under his hat and his eyes where I could see it, and I had to stop a horse right on the spot and be focused. And we did 3 frames where he ran by me in full gallop, and we hit the mark by being lit and focused right on that spot. Again, my relationship with Harrison, just being goofy in an airport parking lot. Harrison wasn't afraid to do whatever we wanted to do to make something interesting. This is Harrison and I in a biplane flying over Malibu. This is my head in the foreground right here. And of course, Harrison in the back. We did many trips flying back and forth across country. We even did a photo shoot, a trip across country in a helicopter. We spent 4 days, him flying. In this particular shoot, we were flying across country. We were flying looking for a place to shoot in the helicopter. And we just went up to the El Mirage dry lake bed here in Southern California and just landed the helicopter and shot everything, took the equipment out and shot everything just a few feet from the helicopter. This is my crew and I just shooting Harrison in the middle of nowhere out from the and playing and shooting on the dry lake bed. Julia Roberts, we were set up in the studio and had everything ready to go, and I just wasn't feeling it that day. And I just said, hey, I found this tire shop down the street on 10th Avenue, New York. Come on, let's go down there and shoot. And of course she was game, and out of it came that. This is using one of my old cars in the studio. Background would have been horrible. I was in the garage, so we just backlit it and blew it out just to give her a place to be. This was Ziggy Marley. This is one of my early Rolling Stone photographs, and we went to Jamaica to photograph Ziggy, and there was just something really, really special that day, and something really special and spiritual happening with him. Nicole Kidman, such a beautiful woman. It was all in the eyes, and I just had to come in tight. I just had to be there and try and show what she was giving back to my camera. Samuel L. Jackson on a movie set, but there was nothing that was of interest, and we were in Queens in a parking lot, and so I took him to the end of the parking lot, which was right off, I forget what the body of water is, whatever bay that is, by JFK, but in any case, again, really simple photograph, one light and a location to make something out of nothing, basically, which I love doing. Woody Allen photographed Woody, Esquire magazine, and they were do something, get him to smile somehow. And this one wasn't quite a smile, but I did get a couple of others. It wasn't an easy task. Jay-Z, this is a really interesting photograph. I had forgot that I'd photographed Jay-Z. He was 18 years old at this time. I was doing another album cover for an artist by the name of Jazz O. I think Jazz O actually gave Jay-Z his moniker, his name, and Jay-Z showed up at the shoot. And this is what he was wearing when he came in. And I was like, I don't know who you are, man, but I got to take some pictures of you. And so we did a whole bunch of pictures, but I'd forgotten that I'd photographed him. And this was actually before his first album came out, I believe. And it was, I forgot I'd photographed him. Why? Because it was in my database and in my files as Jazzo. And when I found it 2 years ago, I pulled it out and made this print and put it in the gallery. And someone from Jay-Z's camp bought it that day for Jay-Z, and then we ended up licensing it to him, and it's a really popular picture. It's again part of his history, part of pop culture history, part of my history.
And these are available for purchase at Morrison?
Absolutely, everything here that I show is all represented by the Morrison Hotel Gallery, as well as, of course, as I mentioned, all our photographers. There's 125 of us who all have archives like mine. Iggy Pop and Debbie Harry, to get these icons together, to have them together for a day, was really a special moment for me. James Brown, it's so funny. I was listening to Jesse Froman the other day, one of our great photographers, who was talking about his experience with James Brown in and around getting out of prison. I went into prison to photograph James Brown for Rolling Stone magazine, and then they sent me back a couple of months later to pick James up when he got out of prison. So we literally picked him up the day he got out of prison, and he took me for a ride. Actually, this is the outfit he wore walking out of prison. And we drove around, and we went down into Augusta, Georgia, and which wasn't far from the prison that he was in. And we started walking around an old neighborhood, and this is one of his early band members from the late 40s that just came out, and it was like, oh my God, James. And we got together and did these pictures. Having James Brown sing for you, there's the limousine we picked him up in, and James walking around the neighborhood showing me, his history. Al Pacino, I've worked with a number of times on movie posters, whether it be Ocean's 13 or Scent of a Woman. To be able to direct actors of this caliber, to be able to be around people like this who I respect and who collaborate with you and listen to you and are willing to sit and work with you is really just really an honor. Bon Jovi, more New Jersey. I did this New Jersey album cover down in Seaside Heights. I've worked with John and the band for many, many years. I did this album, and then we did a Rolling Stone cover. This was also from the album. We've done many, many shoots over the years together. This was the Rolling Stone cover that we did. By today's standards, this would have been a really easy sandwich to put together in the computer, but at the time, this was just a straight analog shot. I managed to find a circus on television while I was waiting for the band to get it together in London, and asked them if they could bring this horse into the studio and would it rear up. And we managed to do it. I, of course, expected to do many, many captures, many, many frames, because that's what you do to shoot a magazine cover, but the horse could only do it a few times, but we got it. And John was wrapping his toes around his feet because he was so afraid the horse was going to come slamming down on top of him. Again, John Bon Jovi. Oh yes, I shot the Kardashians as well. Kim and Courtney and Chloe and Eric Clapton. This was a really interesting image for me just because he had his worry beads, and this was just outside the studio and just grabbed a minute. I can make a picture anywhere. That's always what I tell people. It's sit on the curb, just sit down. It's all about lighting. It's all about lens. It's all about some connection between my lens and my subject. This was Usher and his child, his 6-month-old. We were on a photo shoot, and I was setting some things up, and there was a moment where I looked off to the side, and there was Usher playing with his child. That was so much better composition and a photograph than what I was setting up. Paul McCartney, I was doing this for Rolling Stone. Actually, Danny Clinch was with me on this shoot. Danny will remember we spent 4 or 5 days waiting every day on the way to the venue in Chicago to get Paul on the side of the road, because the title of the story was Paul McCartney on the road, and so I had this idea of him just on the side of the road, and every day they kept us waiting, and we were freezing and just waiting in the car for hours, and then they'd say, no, we can't do it today. And then we'd go to the concert that night, and we'd take pictures for the inside of the magazine at the concert all night and all sorts of things backstage, but we didn't get Paul on the side of the road. And then on the last day, they said to me, look, we can't get it done, but we're going up to Toronto. If you want to jump on the plane with us, you can come up to Toronto, but not with your assistants or any equipment. And so I ran and got in the plane with Paul and Linda, and we went up to Toronto. And the next morning they said, okay, we can do it. And I jumped out, and we got in the car, and we went up on the highway, and I grabbed the shot in 2 minutes. And then they drove away and left me there, and I went on to meet my assistants in the next city. Bjork, I went to Iceland to shoot Bjork. This was in the middle of the winter. It was so cold. It was amazing. But we ended up doing some amazing work together. And Iceland in the winter is the most moonscape-like landscape. Really unbelievable. Chris Farley, such a shame, such a talented person. I've shot multiple movies with Chris. Drew Barrymore, great collaborator. This is all from one shoot. Just trying to shake it up. I do a lot of different setups when I shoot. I try and make each one different, try and do different lighting, different wardrobe, different backgrounds, try and get as much as I can out of a day's work. Liz Taylor, one of my more well-known images. This image of Liz actually is a complete fake shoot. This was in the studio. I was at Sony Soundstages. I had a riser, a platform that we made into a curb, and made like a faux red carpet kind of entrance, pulled in a car, put some stanchions and some little flashes in the background. I had Shirley MacLaine, the actress, standing next to me, and Liz was posing. We were doing pictures, and she was egging Liz on and just said, "That's all you're going to give him? That's the best you can do?" And Liz gave her the finger, and then Shirley gave her the finger back, and then Liz gave me two, and that frame was the one. Liz Taylor was one of the founders of VAMFAR, an organization that I support, and we've raised a lot of money selling this picture of Liz to support VAMFAR. And in fact, it's sort of a big fuck you to HIV and AIDS. And the picture I've used for the Evite for today's live streaming is sort of my fuck you to COVID-19. But anyway, this was a big picture for me, and it's important to support others as best as you can with your work. Halle Berry is someone who is just so beautiful. I think she gets beautiful as she gets older, more beautiful as she gets older and older. Jamie Foxx just grabbed it in a bar. Again, this is an example of just using one light bulb and trying to make something happen and make an interesting image. Jim Carrey, it's always about a concept. It's hard to keep a mind like this still. So it's just a great opportunity to grab a quick prop and do something. This is a different day, a different shoot, but I was shooting him outside and doing a Polaroid back in that day, and handed him the Polaroid to look at it, and as he was looking at it, I saw his shadow on the wall, and that ended up being the picture that mattered. Metallica, this picture was also shot for Rolling Stone. I was in Shaker Heights, Ohio, in a small suburban town, and didn't know what to do with them. I just didn't think it made sense. They didn't belong there. And now I think I could have shot them in the middle of suburbia and it would have been great. But at the time, I was looking for something to fit the feel of their music, and I went into the local police station and asked them if I could use their jail, and they said yes. And we ended up doing something with the band in there. Robert Downey Jr., one of the most brilliant minds in Hollywood. He's just so unique and so funny and so intelligent. This was on a shoot with Scarlett Johansson, and it was just the hairdresser was jumping in to fix her hair, and I just thought it was such a wonderful moment that I left it the way it is. I'm just gone brain dead.
People want your Polaroid books.
No, Polaroid books. Okay, so turn around for a second. We'll do Polaroid books. So, over the years, we collected Polaroids in every shoot. This is before digital photography. And I used to have different people. We had so many Polaroids, and I had different people in my studios just cut them up and save the Polaroids so that each shoot was documented in some way. It's not only the history of my crew and myself and the photo shoots that we've done, but it also allowed us to not only have fun, but to reference the shoots and to be able to find our job numbers and who we're shooting it for and what it was about. But these books are really special and they're really important to me. And there's one for every year, up to a certain point until we stopped doing photographs. So let's move on. Clint Black, One light and tail lights on the side of the road, making it as simple as possible. I will never forget Richard Avedon quoting, there's only one source, and that is the sun, and everything else is reflected in and around and off that. So I've always used that mindset in lighting imagery. So it always really is about one source and then other sources that are either reflected off that source or in some way added to it. Shania Twain.
We're at 40 minutes.
We're what?
We're at 40 minutes.
Oh my God, 5 minutes. So I should answer questions. We don't have enough time.
Okay.
I'm going to go quickly through these, okay? Really fast. Jerry Lee Lewis, George Jones, Sharon Stone, worked with her a number of times over the years. This is all from one shoot. Brad Pitt, this was a very important photo shoot. Brad and I got together. We've worked together a number of times. We got together and we both have a love for motorcycles. And after talking about it in the studio during a photo shoot one day, Brad was called me up and said, "Let's go. I've got 5 days. Let's do a photo shoot." And we spent 5 days on the road with my assistants following and a stylist in a Winnebago and clothes. And he and I rode our motorcycles, and wherever we wanted to, we stopped and took pictures, changed his clothes, did different things. And this is a story. This is part of that shoot. We ended up in the brothel, the Chicken Ranch up in Pahrump, Nevada, and that's Brad and two real hookers. All from the same shoot. In a gas station, just trying to do different things. Stop, change him, use a car, take a picture. Just sitting on the ground, it doesn't take much to make something beautiful. This is for the movie Fury. This was an amazing thing to be able to move a tank around in a soundstage to try and take pictures. That was for Mr. and Mrs. Smith. This is from Ocean's 13. John Travolta in this shoot, this was in Boston in December, but there was no snow on the ground. So we spent a day with a snow machine and a truckload of ice and created snow. And my assistants and I shoveled it all around within that frame. Waited to the end of the day till John showed up to grab this shot. Robin Williams, to be able to photograph him, this was for Birdcage. Also for Birdcage with Nathan Lane. My face hurt after this shoot just from laughing so much. Jeremy Irons, Angelina Jolie, Nicolas Cage. You saw Nicolas Cage, someone I photographed again, over and over again. I've talked a lot, but there's a lot of imagery to look at, and we barely touched it. Whoopi Goldberg, one of my closest friends, my sister of so many years. This was the first shoot we did together, and Whoopi was like, "I want to do one from behind because everyone will know me and recognize me from behind." And we did, and it was brilliant. And it's just how she showed me about creativity on that day. And we photographed together for so many years, in so many ways, in so many different things. This was an ad campaign we did for a feminine product, making Whoopi different characters of women in history. The Princess and the Pea, Lady Godiva, Joan of Arc, Whoopi, I love you. Whoopi on the toilet. This was the story she told me, that something that had really happened to her, that she was sitting in a public stall and that someone actually reached underneath and handed her a pen and a paper to grab an autograph. And so we recreated it. And it's just such a wonderful image. This was the Henson Muppet Factory. The Muppets, they made a puppet of Whoopi, and we did one from behind, as we always do on every photo shoot. Always do one from behind. Keith Richards, Rolling Stone.
Britney Spears.
Yes, Britney. Johnny Depp, this was the first day I arrived in Hollywood. I was given an 8x10 and told to go to the airport and look for him. He hadn't even started 21 Jump Street yet. I went to the baggage claim and was looking around with an 8x10 trying to find this guy. Had no idea who he was, and then took him up in Malibu and did these pictures that same day. Faye Dunaway. Oh my God. Gary Oldman. Sylvester Stallone. Daniel Craig. Aretha Franklin, who I've photographed many times. Towards the end of her life. Bruce, Jersey. Bruce's famous Fender guitar. I came in tight on this because it was so beat up and carved out from all those years of playing and rubbing against his belt buckle, and I just had to come in because I recognized the importance of that guitar. Michael Jackson, this was a day that it was really important. I actually photographed Michael in a way that other people haven't, which sort of showed his vulnerability and wasn't as stylized or retouched or overstyled. One of the contact sheets from that day. Howard Stern, Private Parts. I did both the book cover as well as the movie poster. Let's go into something else. If we can go into really quickly before I get away from and lose my time here. I'm just going to go into, just to give you a bit of the movie posters, given that we're home alone. I've spent 5 weeks, 6 weeks home alone. I did this movie poster. We did Groundhog Day, which is also what this feels like now. Anger Management, The Bucket List, Snake Eyes, Sleepless in Seattle, Loser, Tommy Boy, Cowboys and Aliens, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Bad Boys 2, Terminator. We did, there's a lot, hundreds of movie posters that I shot over my career. So, I don't know where to go except to show you more pictures or to answer some questions. So,
They want you to talk about Amboy. They want you to talk about Indian Larry.
oh my God. So Indian Larry, let me quickly show you Indian Larry. Again, one of my motorcycle friends. Indian Larry is someone who was really important to me in my life. We rode motorcycles together and he was a good friend for 25 years. And Larry passed away on our last ride together by falling off his motorcycle. But again, as I mentioned earlier, I had the pictures and I had the love and the ability to do a book, and we did a great book together. Very important part of my life. This was shot, I always bring friends of mine together, always, as we did with Liza and Larry, Harrison and Larry. And this was in a town, a piece of property that I used to have out in the Mojave Desert. And I used to bring people out there all the time and do things together. And I just love the fact that here's Indian Larry, one of my biker friends, and Harrison Ford. Larry doing what he called the crucifix, standing up on his motorcycle and riding. This is how he passed away. And of course that picture again with Liza. And this was the book cover I did with Larry. All right, do you have any other questions? Because we're running out of time.
We're at 48 minutes.
Yes.
We'll stop at an hour. If we want, we can stop and then go for an hour too.
No, I mean, any questions, or we can call it a day?
People ask about if you have any advice about getting into music photography, how you approach really, unexpected lighting situations.
Yeah, lighting situations. I walk in and I'm more reactionary. I try not to plan too far ahead. I feel like I'll screw it up if I plan too much, and you never know, the universe screws things up. So if you plan a sunny day, it could rain on you. So I just like to have a lot of tricks in my bag and get a lot of experience. And again, I'll make someone sit still for a half a second or whatever I need to do to light it with a light bulb or a flashlight or car headlights, as I mentioned, or anything really. One strobe, a couple of candles, whatever it takes that will work. So I don't really have a go-to lighting. I try and react to a situation and a feeling and make that feeling work for what I want to do, but also for how I feel about my subject. You got a question about career. It's life has a way of taking you, so it's hard to do something. Be passionate, follow your gut, follow the thing that makes you happy, because that's what life's about. And one thing after another will take place, and if photography is it, and you have that thing that works for you. For me, it was about a connection with people that made sense, and it worked. Stick with it, whatever it is. Life will take you where it wants to take you. I think we're out. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. I know I talked continually, but if there's any last question, anything important, or
How long have you had your
people are asking about my boots. All I can say about my boots is there's a lot of miles on these boots, and I'm definitely going to be buried in them. Thank you all. Morrison Hotel Gallery. Go to the website, support the photographers. It's a tough time for everybody. I guarantee you'll be completely enamored of all the time you're killing at home. You can really spend a lot of it on our website. So, thank you.
I know. And then the dogs will go out hungry.